Here we go.
There we go.
We're off
Lights
skate.
out.
Half an hour of racing underway.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop promises, I'm gonna win big. Choose not to life of imitation. Distant us into the reservation. Too long to kiss the that you pay for. This part the feeling that you stay for. In time, I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't
You there?
I've been commentating this entire time with my mic off.
That's good.
No, but I think it should be fixed now. But yeah, so sorry everyone. I was just saying to Harry that mic wasn't working, but is now. So obviously joined at the 69 minutes of Imola then today, and qualifying underway then. I was just talking about obviously John Gray currently on top and improving his lap time, along with the others of a returning driver of Pushkov as well. So great to see some familiar faces come back and join us. But still at the moment then, John Gray with a 140.6, very fast indeed, just invalidating that last lap over the chicane as he tries to find as much pace in that Ferrari. With going over the curbs in the Ferrari, it is going to be quite difficult for him indeed to keep that managed. But elsewhere then, Porshkov currently 2/10 improvement. It won't be enough at pole as it stands, but they've still got sector 3 to go. Currently finding 3.5 tenths then. Up the hill he goes, and he's flashing. He's trying to get someone out of his way. Still 3 tenths then, comes to the chicane, riding all of the curb is Porshkov, and unfortunately does lose a tenth out of that too. It's maybe not the best example of how to take it, At the moment, he's still 2.5 tenths up on the delta. He has to find a little bit more time in these final couple of corners to get a improvement. He has found that 10th back, and he comes around the final corner and getting another 10th. So it's going to be 4.5 tenths then for Porshikov, and he should go within 1/10 of John Gray as this goes on. In his P2 for Porshikov then a 140.7, and he takes purple sector 3 with him as well. So John Gray's time getting very close to being beaten, but what a lap from John Gray then, that early on to set a lap like that. Looking further down the grid then, Andrea currently half a second up on the lap time. This will put them into a low 41, and will be very good indeed, taking the curbs very nicely and improve their delta to 6.5 tenths. So we could find a little bit more time. Andrea could find themselves within a 140. But at the moment, then, still Andrea around the final corner has found 7 tenths, now 8. Loses a little bit of time on the exit. Comes around the final corner now. Has lost a little bit more time, but there's still plenty of time to find for Andrea on his next lap. But it does stand to be around almost 7 tenths gained. So that'll put them to P5 then. It's a 141.1, and the time to getting very, very close in the top 10. Top 10 exactly within a second of each other. So is very good to see. Meanwhile then, looking a little bit downwards, Donate, who's currently P15, it did invalidate one of his laps, so we'll have to see how he's getting on at the moment. He did set some really fast lap times in practice, but it's currently a 141.9 for Donate, and he's currently only 3 tenths up on the delta. Just under 5 minutes to go in qualifying, so it's pretty much final laps coming, and starts to prepare, and he has bought his lap, and he'll have to go again. So maybe not happy with it, but just trying to set up for the final 5 minutes then. So that off Donate goes. We'll have to catch in with him as we go onwards then. But Usby just invalidates his lap as I click over to him, unfortunately. But it was 2.5 tenths improvement for Usby. So again, that put him within 4 tenths of Gray. Obviously not this lap, it's invalidated. But he has some time to find by the looks of that. Meanwhile then, Altosis in the Green Gardens Ferrari, a very old Ferrari in fact, so great to see some of these older cars make their way onto the grid, and it's currently a 10.5 improvement. I'll be looking to try and get their way into a 42 at the moment. We'll actually cut back with Donate then, as he finds himself at the end of sector 1 with half a second on the delta at the moment. This will put them into a low 41 at the moment, obviously pole time being a provisional pole of 40.6 set by John Gray, and that was one of John Gray's first laps, and no one has yet beat it. But I wonder if Donate can try. He's currently 7 tenths up on the lap time at the moment, loses a little bit on the exit there. We'll have to see how he takes these curbs. So the Mustang can take these curbs quite like a beast. It is fairly good on curves around there. It doesn't look it, but it is very fast compared to others, and he doesn't really improve the delta. It's stayed equal. He has got some traffic ahead of him, trying to warm up for their lap. So they've got to clear quite well for Tiago. Then comes around the final couple of corners. Then a little bit wide on the exit of the penultimate corner, but either way, it's going to be a 7.5 tenth improvement for Tiago. Then almost 8 tenths by the time he comes on. It is 8 tenths before he crosses the line. 8.5 tenths before he crosses the line. Almost 9 tenths when he crosses the line. And it puts him P3. I mean, he's getting so much time on that straight, but it's a 41.0 for Donate then, with no purple sectors, so he has to find a little bit more time, and he's already found the 10.5 just in that first sector, or first couple of corners alone. So he's only got 4 tenths now to John Gray, so I wonder if he can find that. We'll have to keep an eye on the delta, but it is currently sitting at 3 tenths, so within the first sector Donate's already found 3 tenths, so I imagine this could be our pole lap if he can hold it together, but he has got traffic, and traffic on valid laps for that matter, so he's got to try and manage this well. Does he abort, or does he have to go for it? And either way, he's lost time through that little uphill, and it's now sitting down just below 3 tenths at the moment, so I'll have to see how he gets on. But comes up then up the hill and towards the chicane. Well, I'd imagine he could probably take this chicane just a little bit better, but there is a McLaren in his way. So we'll have to see if it's going to affect his lap or not. But it's 4/10 as he enters the chicane. Then by the time he exits, it's almost 6/10. But he does lose again on the exit. So the entry speed, a little bit too much maybe. But he's going to lose all time, all the way down. And he's got to try and get this braking absolutely perfect. He's only got to find 4/10. He's sitting currently with a provisional pole time in that car. He's pretty much only just got it, but he's got to have an absolute excellent run to the line. He's going to get a great slipstream off the McLaren. But it's not going to be enough as it stands, but it could be wrong by the time the line comes. It's not going to be enough. It's going to be 4/10. It's going to put him within 25 thousandths of a second to John Gray in 45 seconds remaining of quali. And Donate is going to have to abort that due to the McLaren ahead of him. So Donate will not be setting another lap. Neither is Pushkov, neither is Harry, neither is Usby. At the moment, so the only person going to improve that time is John Gray, who is on a 2.5 improvement at the moment. So for the person that set the provisional pole time at the start of this session, that hasn't been dethroned, at the end of the session is now going even quicker. At the moment, holds purple sector 2 as expected, and the Ferrari is quite good in the middle sector here. Is going to struggle quite a bit in the first with all those curbs, but either way it's still an improvement for John Gray, and not even Pushkov and Donate can dethrone him at this moment. They're both in the pits. The only person that's going to dethrone John Gray is John Gray himself. A 10.5 improvement at the moment. Has got a little bit of traffic, but I don't think that'll be much case for him. A little bit bouncy over the curbs, that's what I'm talking about. It takes those curbs wrong, it can end the race pretty quickly. But just under a 10th improvement, so at the moment he's still going to improve no matter what, but I would imagine no one else on a major improvement. So at the moment John Gray will be claiming pole position, and just to show off just a little bit more, he's found the 10.5, so absolutely amazing lap for John Gray in the number 14 Ferrari. It's almost 2/10 what comes across the line then, but it's a 1:40.4 still with a further sector 2 time. So what a lap from John Gray then to put it on pole, and followed by Donate and Pushkov, Harry, Williams, Hanak, Andrea, Usby, and then Samuel, Edwards and Mary then, and obviously looking further down the grid, obviously got Ben Gilroy, who's found himself in a unusual car, you could say. He's found himself in the Reiter, of course. Is finding a 10th improvement at the moment, so he could improve his position to P23. At the moment he's actually lost all the time on the exit, so well, that's the Reiter for you, but we'll see how he gets on during the race. But either way, what a lap from John Gray to go P1 then. I'm sure he'll be very happy with that indeed. But now we'll just take a quick short break, and then we'll be back when these guys get away for the formation lap.
Here we go.
There we go.
We're off
Lights
skid.
out.
Half an hour of racing underway.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop top, it says I'm gonna win big. Choose not to like no invitation. Listed us into the reservation. Too long to kiss that you pay for. This part the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't die, you know the truth is some do. Go ask the dust for any answers. Come back strong with 50 million answers. The world I love, the tears I drop to be part of the wave. Can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you?
Here we go.
There we go.
We're off.
Lights out.
Half an hour of racing underway.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop promises, I'm gonna win big. Choose not to like of imitation. Distant us into the reservation. The pistol that you pay for. This part the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't die, you know the truth is some do. Go ask the dust for any answers. Come back strong with 50 million answers. The world I love, the tears I've dropped to be part of the wave can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you?
Here we go.
There we go.
We're off.
Lights out.
Half an hour of racing underway.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop promises, I'm gonna win big. Choose not to like of imitation. Distant us into the reservation. The pistol that you pay for. This part the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't die, you know the truth is some do. Go ask the dust for any answers. Come back strong with 50 million answers. The world I love, the tears I've dropped to be part of the wave can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you?
Here we go.
There we go.
We're off.
Lights out.
Half an hour of racing underway.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop promises, I'm gonna win big. Choose not to like of imitation. Distant us into the reservation. The pistol that you pay for. This part the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't die, you know the truth is some do. Go ask the dust for any answers. Come back strong with 50 million answers. The world I love, the tears I've dropped to be part of the wave can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you?
Alright, welcome back then to the race then. So John Gray setting the pace with a very nice lap time. And they come around the final corner now. They'll be in their box by box formation at the moment. And they'll be looking for a good start. We're about to go green then. Already the line is quite late. But you can see them all forming up then. And this is what we're waiting for. Obviously, what a qualifying it was. It was so close between everyone. And I imagine we're about to see the Mustang get an absolutely brilliant start on John Gray. That's just unfortunately the way it is with the straight line speed of these cars. But we'll soon find out. The line is just there, and we'll get green underway very shortly. Still a bit late then. I'm not sure they're going to wave this flag. It is green flag now, and you see Donato was already ahead before the green flag went running. So I'm not sure what happened there particularly, but either way, Donato in P1 then. John Gray is going to be up the inside, into turn 1 he goes. Lots of people side by side just behind them. That's a Mustang getting pushed off as well, but still then John Gray leads. Donato follows, Porsche Cobb third, Harry still fourth, and plenty of action already. There's a yellow flag for 23, and that is Altosis in the old Ferrari, unfortunately. that is now running. It's still Gray that leads us, and currently very nice little train. Harry getting a little bit over the grass. You see lots of side-by-side action in the background, and I believe, yes, that was Francesco getting past Mary then. Mary's lost a few positions at the start of this race. Either way, then we'll continue on. There's this train is getting quite big, but it's a mistake. It's a mistake for Porshikov, and it allows Harry through, and Porshikov has to try and join safely, but he's going to lose a position to Andrea and Hanak. At the same time, Hanak is side by side with Porshikov. Into the chicane they'll go. Hanak getting all over the curbs. Porshikov has to cut the track, but all the while that's going to allow Cairo up the inside of Porshikov. Then so Porshikov has lost P3 and might even lose and be all the way down to P7 if Cairo can get this move off. You can see Williams in the background. That is against Edwards, and he does make that move. That's nice for him. And now it's Williams versus Usby will be the next battle. But Porshikov losing positions, and he's already down to P7, and Usby's not that far behind him at all. By the way, then John Gray is still holding on to P1. Currently has a 1.1 second gap at the moment, followed by Donate. Then Harry promoted into P3 due to Porshikov's mistake, and obviously Andrea in the BMW chasing after shortly. Then it's Hanak with a 1.3 second gap to the BMW, and then obviously you can see the little train of cars following behind. But at the moment, then we'll have to see how it all plays out. But there's plenty of action heading up, and it's Mary then looking to the inside for the uphill hairpin. At the moment, thank you Konos for the camera angle. They're still side by side then, and Mary on the exit will get a great run up into the next corner on the uphill, and does get that pass before that corner. That's a great pass then for Mary, but Williams trying to get past Usby then at the moment, still trying, and the Mustang will have the benefit of the straight line speed of course, and Ferrari will start to struggle on these curves compared, I believe actually that was Porshikov looking for a fake move on Cairo, that was, but you can see Williams got such a better exit on Usby onto that corner. He pulls to the outside already, side by side they go into the corner. Usby on the inside then holds a position and pushes Williams a little bit off to the track, but Williams holds on nicely and has a little bit of a little slide out the exit does Williams, but flashing at the moment, not happy with that move. Have to try again on the straight, but we'll have to see how that goes. But you can see the train of cars is still quite big. Donate has got within the second of John Gray as well, but that's a late move for Williams. Contact's been made, and that's Usby and Williams off the track. Williams has to rejoin safely, and I think Usby, yeah, unfortunately, is further contact down the grid. There's cars in the gravel everywhere. That's changed a lot of positions up and down. I think Williams, yeah, Williams is in positions as well. You can see the damage on that front bumper and lockup as well. So that's not really ideally what we'd have wanted. But looking further up the grid then, as Porshikov trying to make his way back past Samuel. Obviously just got the better of Porshikov after his mistake. At the moment, and is trying to pass a blue flag car at the moment. He does get out of the way nicely for these guys. We'll have to see. It seemed quite chaotic then, but Williams currently P11, and Usby dropping down to P21 at the moment. I think Ben Gilroy's made a mistake in the right, so I think we'll see that quite a lot. I'm sure, unfortunately, but see how many cars are on the grid today. It's going to be a great race, I'm sure of it. Johnny Ashley then around to the outside of Edwards. Edwards still holding the inside, but the Bentley then looking for the switchback, can't get it just yet. And eventually have to use that straight line speed and try and get past into turn one. We'll have to see how that works out. But then Bentley then pretty much on the bumper of the Ferrari. Will go on passenger cam. So they're going to be side by side down the straight, and Bentley will have the inside line for turn one. But if the Bentley can get past into turn one already, it'll be much of a benefit. They're not. Bentley braking later than the Ferrari and turns in much sharper and does get the move on. That's very nice and done properly. Meanwhile, Williams all over the bumper of the Ferrari, trying to make a move, trying to find a way past, trying to find a Mustang-sized gap, which is going to be quite difficult nowadays in a car of that size. But Williams will have to try elsewhere to try and get that Mustang turned in and get it ahead of that Ferrari. But Pushkov still chasing after Samuel. Samuel's doing a great defence at the moment to hold up Pushkov. All the while that's helping John Gray, Donate and Harry, and well, everyone in the top 5 really. But it is Pushkov making a mistake and has to try again then on Samuel. You can see the amount of curbs Pushkov's using compared to Samuel. That's basically allowed him to gain all that time back just in that one chicane alone. And I like to imagine Pushkov will try and send a dive into this corner. You can see Samuel does think about defending, doesn't think about late for Pushkov, does think about it, but sensibly keeps his nose out of that. But Mary then trying to get past the McLaren very late, and does so indeed. It's another great move for Luca as they will continue on. We'll have to see how that works out for them, but the McLaren seems to be coming back on the straight, so it could be a further battle into turn 1. But Donate then all over the back of John Gray. So after John Gray had a fantastic start, so that Mustang has now kicked in, and you can see Harry defending from Mattia as well. Looks for a move into the chicane of turns 1 or 2 and 3. Can't get it. Looks to the outside on the uphill hairpin. Can't find a move just yet. Plenty of battles going all around at the moment, but obviously Hanek just not far from this either. So, well, a little bit a battle like this could be costly, of course. But either way, then very wide for Harry. I think that's just track limits, if not just past them. But we'll have to see how that affects the race. Mistake for Andrea then, and that's actually going to allow Hanek to close a lot to the BMW, and it gives Harry a little bit of breathing room, but not for long, I'd like to imagine. But Pushkov, in other news, has got past Samuel and is now into P6, and we'll now have to chase down this 2-second gap to close back up to the Harry train at the moment. Meanwhile then Donate will continue on. The gap is 0.4 of a second, and a little bit dipping the wheels into the grass for the top 2, the gravel, sorry. So it's now 0.5, but we'll have to see what the gap is by turn 1. So we can start to see that the straight line speed of the Mustang, but Donate maybe not paying attention where he's going. He almost crashed into that wall. You saw that late twitch, and that was to stop himself crashing into the little kink on the straight. But the gap is now 0.3 of a second after that. So it seems to be that Mustang has all the straight line speed, and Gray has to do it all in the corners. And obviously Ferrari maybe not so beneficial in these corners. The suspension not as fantastic as the Mustangs, and you'll start to see Gray really struggle at places like that chicane we just went through, and of course the infamous Sector 3 chicane, and that's where John Gray will struggle most in the Ferrari, obviously where the Mustang will be quickest in the corners, of course. So we'll have to see how that affects this battle for P1. It's currently 0.6 of a second, so you can see where the Ferrari is quicker, but I think Donate has just had a disconnect because he's no longer on the track, and he's no longer on race control. So I think Donate has had a disconnect then. So John Gray has P1 then by 5 seconds. Is Harry now promoted into P2? I'm not particularly sure what happened there for Donate. Unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see him back shortly. But either way then, battle goes on for Hanek actually, who's got past Andrea. Maybe a little move potentially we didn't see, but Hanek now will be looking to chase after Harry. The gap's 1.2 seconds, so let's see if he can catch that. Obviously they've got to be careful because Pushkov is coming back. He's currently in P5, and obviously we're chasing after the BMW as well. Meanwhile then, Looking down the grid then, Maple with Kelly, who's with the number 15 McLaren, so it could be another three-way battle into turn 1. Kelly's gaining on the McLaren and the Porsche's gaining on the Ferrari. So plenty of action. That's Kelly going for a move on the McLaren into turn 1, doesn't think about it just yet, while it's allowing Maple to get ever closer. Fantastic exit for Maple, little twitch from the Ferrari from Kelly, and Maple will have to gain from that, but I don't think it'll be enough at the moment. We'll have to see how that goes for them. A little bit too much curve maybe for Maple, but gets away with it nicely, and that's a blue flag drive getting out of the way. Obviously just under an hour left, obviously only 69 minutes, which is an hour and 9 minutes, so within almost 15 minutes of racing. We've had some great racing indeed. Meanwhile then, that's Hanzo Voss in the Honda, looking to try and get past Darkness, and that's Nikon in the background as well, trying to get past the Honda. So another three-car battle. That's pretty much what it's looking like all up and down the grid at the moment. It's these little three-way battles, which are quite exciting. But that's a mistake for the Honda. It's going to allow Niken to get really close to the back of Voss then. Doesn't think about it, but Niken's got a lot of damage to that Porsche, and we'll have to try and manage that throughout the rest of this race. But meanwhile then, Porshakov now 0.3 of a second behind his fellow BMW rival, and we'll have to look for a move shortly. Hanek not gaining all too much on Harry at the moment, so maybe Harry going a little bit quicker, although Hanek was 0.3 quicker than Harry last time round, so obviously how that obviously turns out. But we're trying to watch, of course, Porshakov on the BMW. At the moment, Porshakov is the fastest between P5 and P2. John Gray at the moment doing 0.2 quicker than Porshakov. So we'll have to see, of course, how that all works out. Also, Donate looking like he had a disconnect, which isn't fantastic. But Darkness losing positions may be a mistake. Yeah, as you can see, all those guys have got through. But either way then, it's Peter on Nikkonen and then on Voss as well. So still, even when one car drops out of the fight, there's still plenty more to pick it up and continue it. Let's see if this battle continues for any longer, but we'll have to keep watching Pushkov at the moment, who is the closest to Andrea as it stands, and Cairo just behind is not all that far behind, so we'll have to see if this affects the battle in any way. I wouldn't imagine it would all too much, but there's a great exit for Porshakov then. The gap is 0.3 of a second, now 2, and that'll be a great run then from the BMW driver. We'll go on board just so we can see what Porshakov is seeing at the moment. Where does he look at the moment? He looks to the outside, looks to the inside very late, holds the brake about the same time does Andrea. A little bit too much curve for Porshakov to try and make that inside work, but we'll have to try again. It's a fantastic exit on Andrea, and we'll have to keep trying. Andrea's placing the car in the middle of the track, just telling Porshakov don't go for it, but the mistake for Porshakov, a little bit of the grass, and that's going to allow Cairo back into this fight as well in the McLaren. So great racing between everyone at the moment. Obviously this fight between Porshakov and Andrea is costing them time, and quite a bit of time, to Hanak and ahead, of course. At the moment the gap is stabilising at the moment between him and Harry. It's only a 10th between them last time round, but we'll have to see how that unfolds. Meanwhile then, I think that was a position gain for Will, and maybe a mistake for the car behind, but either way then, we're looking at the moment at Matt Howes in the Ford, chasing after Mark Maston for P21. Obviously 30 cars in this race, so quite a big grid at the moment, but there's been a move for P4, and that's Porshakov. Maybe a fantastic run out of the chicane, and just later on the brakes and getting past Andrea then. But Andrea's got to look in his mirrors, because that's a lot of gravel being taken by the BMW. It's going to lose all his straight line speed all the way down to turn 1. It might even allow Samuel a chance to try and get past as well, so Andrea could be losing 2 positions within a very short amount of time. Now side by side they go into turn 1. Later on the brakes is the BMW, and yeah, unfortunately Sam will have to try again and have to recompose himself and wait for another mistake, but you can't wait for too long, because that's Mary in the background, who's obviously been overtaking left and right recently, and won't be afraid of going after the McLaren driver, that's for sure. By the way, looking at the 777 then, chasing after Turbanov in the Mercedes. Hugging the inside is the Ferrari. A little bit of bumping into the chicane that pushes Turbanov into the gravel, and Turbanov will have to rejoin and try and get past again. By the way then, a little bit argy-bargy from the 777, but and that's a mistake from Turbanov, a little bit of a twitch, and has to rejoin, unfortunately, but I'll have to see how that is. But he used to be looking for a move, obviously did get spun round by Williams a little bit earlier on, and that's Turbanov giving way to them, but obviously lots of damage on that Ferrari, and obviously in a Ferrari damage is quite crucial and can really stop half of your pace, but at the moment USP seems to doing just okay, recovering from P21, currently in P16, looking for P15 at the moment. He seems to be doing alright, but they have got Kelly just ahead as well, so another three-way battle, and this time it's all Ferraris. So everyone, obviously maybe apart from Usby who's got damage, is driving the exact same car on the exact same pace, and most probably almost the exact same setup. So we'll have to see how it all works out for these guys. So Usby will be the faster driver out of these guys, but obviously with that damage it might not be so. But either way, I think Usby's quite close indeed to the back of his fellow Ferrari driver, and we'll have to see if he can try and get past in the first sector, but I think that damage is really stopping his straight line speed at the moment, so he's going to have to do it in the corners. Edwards getting really close to the back of Kelly, and actually that's cost him a mistake, and that used to be going all the way around the outside then into turn 2. What a move that was, and that's what a mistake can cost you. It can cost you a whole position, and it's now used to be chasing after Kelly for P14 then, and Kelly's only, I think he's just under a second to the number 15 McLaren up ahead as well. That is the McLaren there, it has got damage as well, so this could turn into another three-way car fight, but that's Andrea looking for a move on Porshakov, doesn't get it, but he's definitely trying to put the pressure on, and Mary is part of this battle too, has joined Samuel in the attack as well. Meanwhile, at the top then, it is still John Gray leading. Obviously only almost 20 minutes of racing has been done. Obviously no stops today. They are not allowed to fuel the car. They have to start from their starting fuel. Some of these drivers might have to lift and coast, others might not have to. In a car like the Ferrari, you're probably pretty safe, but suffering quite a lot with the suspension, I'm sure here. But other cars like Hanax and McLaren, they will be struggling. They'll be using quite a bit of fuel. I think the McLaren's about 3.1 litres per lap around here, compared to the Ferrari, which is probably doing about 2.4 litres. It is quite a big difference. So some of these drivers will have to obviously manage that fuel well. But I believe Andrea's made a mistake, and he has. We'll have to see what went on there. Mary's looking for a move into the chicane. They will go, and Andrea just seats the position for that. I'm not sure how he lost position to Cairo, possibly into turn 1, but we'll see. Andrea then losing out 2 positions. It does promote Samuel to P5, Mary to P6, and unfortunately Andrea down to P7. But Hanak then within 1 second of Harry at the moment, so obviously these two fighting for the better podium places. Obviously Hanak P3, Harry P2, obviously, and John Gray up the road by about 7.5 seconds. So we'll have to see how this battle unfolds. We'll have to see how this battle unfolds on. We're just watching, because Murray doesn't seem to be giving up all too much. He's been making places pretty much every lap, and he might make another one into turn 1. got a much better exit than Kara. Kara sees and tries to defend quite early. I think it is going to cost him for that early swerve anyway. I don't think it's all too beneficial, but you can see he's riding as much to the edge of the track as he can. I don't think it'll be enough, but yeah, it isn't enough for Mary to try and get the overtake. But if that BMW is faster than the corners than the McLaren, then it's pretty much going to be waving goodbye to the McLaren. But that's Porshikov in the pit lane. I'm sorry I didn't catch it, but Porshikov has a drive-through penalty, and that will probably be for track limits. I know how he feels. I did the exact same thing yesterday, but that is really going to hurt his race. He's going to exit the pit lane behind Naniken, behind Newsby, and behind Hanzo Voss. That's him going by now. And so yeah, Porshikov then going down to P18, which is not really what he wanted at all, especially this early on in the race. I might try and look for a pass straight back. Potentially, but it's just a minor setback. I'm sure Porshikov will try his best to try and recover. Of course, either way then, back on board with Luca, who's still trying to find their way past the McLaren driver. Kari seems to be doing just fine at the moment, trying to get past, and he's doing a great job at doing so. Meanwhile, other drivers making a recovery then, obviously Williams, who had a little incident with Newsby earlier on, is back up into P8, only around 5 seconds from the McLaren ahead of him. So we'll have to see if he can make an appearance in this battle that we're watching right here. But I think Mary might have enough speed to get alongside Samuel into turn 1. But I could be wrong. That McLaren seems to be running quite a bit of low wing, which is, I didn't really expect all too much, but obviously Samuel got the setup pretty much perfect, and is able to defend in a straight line, but maybe a poor exit from Mary as Andrea is looking for a pass as well. But obviously the longer these guys continue to be close to each other, continue to fight wheel to wheel, it's Francesco not that far behind them, just under 1 second now. So we could see a 4-car battle relatively shortly if these guys are not too careful, of course. But that's Hanak then, side by side with Harry they go into the uphill right. Hanak does think better of it for now, but Hanak has gained quite significantly on Harry at the moment, and will be looking for a pass. The Hack was quicker last lap, but maybe this lap will tell a different story. But much more confident over the curbs is Lucas, so we'll have to see how this affects this battle. But I think Harry got the better exit out of that one. Gap is 0.6 of a second, but we could see maybe if Hanak's running a lower wing setup, a bit like Samuel. We're about to find out, but go on passenger cam then with Hanak, and we'll have to estimate. But now you can see Harry slowly pulling away. Gap now 0.5 of a second. They're still within slipstream range for Hanek then. I don't think that's making too much of a difference for him at the moment. That is a Ferrari off into the grass. That is Altosis really struggling with that old Ferrari, I'm pretty sure. But all to gain for Hanek then in these corners, trying to make as much use of that McLaren as he can. Someone trying to make use of that McLaren at the moment is also Samuel, trying his best to do the opposite of Hanak and trying to defend in the McLaren at the moment. So we'll have to see how that goes for him. But Mary very close, very late lunge for Mary. Up the uphill hairpin they go, side by side, and that's Mary through way before the corner. And I think actually, no, I'm wrong, but maybe Kari wasn't all too happy about that late lunge because he's flashing indeed. But he goes off track, and that's actually going to cost him potentially to Andrea behind. But at the moment I don't think he's made too much of a difference, unfortunately for him. But very nice move for Mary, so we know how confident he was making the moves a little bit earlier on. And he's back up into P4 then. Williams has received a 10-second time penalty, and I imagine that would be for the incident he had with Newsby. But we're still then on board with Hanak, who's trying to look for a move on Harry, and that's Turpinov just ahead of them, so Turpinov must try and clear, but he has got quite a bit of front end damage. Wonder if Harry got held up there, but Turpinov in the gravel, and I think Harry did get held up there because Hanak is 0.2 of a second just behind Harry. I don't think it would be enough. I'm sure that Aston will just survive just for now, but that means the pressure is definitely on for Harry. We'll have to defend really heavily into this third sector where the McLaren is quite strong, so we'll have to see how that is. You see Hanek, quite a nice exit indeed, making use of those track limits almost perfectly. So we'll have to see. Obviously, these two getting their practice in yesterday with the Supercharged Sunday race, and we'll have to see if that made much of a difference. But for someone that didn't make a difference to, because he didn't turn up to it, is John Gray. He's done an absolute excellent job in Imola so far. He's still leading the race, around 10 seconds is the gap. 42.9 last time round, and pretty much faster than the rest. Though Mary did match John Gray last lap, so that is proof that obviously Mary is on a charge at the moment. Obviously the fastest lap is John Gray's. It's a 41.5, and that is one of the, I think yes, it is the second. Oh, there's only 2 laps within a 41 at the moment, and that's him and Mary. So again, as expected. So obviously Luca quite fast as well in that BMW. Currently got a 5-second gap to try and catch to Hanak and Harry. Obviously Harry finding himself in another bit of traffic, who does get out of the way in this case, but this time obviously Hanak not as close, but must keep an eye on this battle, I'm sure, because Hanek definitely seemed like he wanted to try and get past, so I'll have to see obviously how that is for him. Meanwhile, Pushkov already up into P14, obviously got a drive-through penalty, put himself all the way down into P18. He's currently trying to find a little bit more time to try and push himself up into P13 at the moment. The gap being 0.6 of a second. Mistake from the McLaren, and that should allow, I'd imagine, Pushkov through into turn 1. The gap is now 0.2 of a second out of that corner. You can see Pushkov pulls out to the left hand side, then side by side with the McLaren. Not much that McLaren can really do at the moment, and I'd imagine Pushkov, yes he does, he just pulls ahead of the McLaren, and that will be a job done indeed. Next on the list for Pushkov then is Edwards, only 1.5 seconds up the road, so I'm sure it'll be relatively simple for him. Meanwhile then, you got Francesco then still chasing after Samuel. See, Francesco gaining time after Samuel was defending from the likes of Pushkov and Mary and Andrea as well. At the moment it looks like Francesco trying to get past as well, and we'll have to see obviously how that unfolds. And that's Mark Mast losing a position to one Hayden Sweet, obviously our friends over at Togo, of course. Obviously Hayden, the owner, of course, and doing a very nice job at the moment in P19, getting past Mark and into the top 20 then with 40 minutes to go. There's a personal best for Edwards last lap, so obviously feeling the pressure from Pushkov already has spurred him on to try and beat his personal best of the race. But I don't think it's going to be enough, unfortunately, because that is Pushkov already on his bumper, and obviously the likes of Pushkov, very talented, of course, and will be trying to get past at any means. And at the moment, he seems to be doing just fine doing so. But Samuel losing a position to both Francesco and Andrea in Sector 1. Potentially a mistake on the exit of the curbs, which has cost him 2 positions. That is what the curbs can cost you at a track like Imola. Unfortunate, but either way, Samuel still in this fight no matter what. Definitely has the pace to fight these guys just ahead of him, so we'll have to see if he can do that. Meanwhile, Hanek at the moment just hovering outside of a second to Harry at the moment, not putting all too much pressure, but is definitely staying within the mirrors, that's for sure. I don't know if we can get a quick chat, Harry. So I know you're going for this chicane, which is probably not the most ideal place, but how's it going?
Not very well, to be honest. It may seem that it's doing well in P2, but the car is honestly not at its best. I've got a lot of rear slips, so I've got to take it careful in corners. Otherwise, I end up losing a lot of time in the exits. And of course, with the amount of ballast that I've got in the car, I'm very slow on the straights, so I'm very vulnerable to Hanak behind.
Now, let's see obviously how that goes out for him. We know Hanak is running a little bit lower wing than a McLaren normally would. We saw that in Cairo as well. So McLaren's taking for a more obviously straight line speed type setup, which is maybe costing Hanak the time he needs probably to harry in these corners at the moment. But like Harry said, he does have quite a bit of ballast, and that's of course because he hasn't repaired his car. So next time I'll have to try and repair it. Obviously, if you don't know what I'm talking about career mode, of course. Obviously, where the only place at the moment for ACC where you can have realistic career mode and obviously join a team, create your own team, and obviously race in races like this, purchase these cars. And obviously, if you don't repair your car, you're going to have more ballast and slow you down. And at the moment, Hanak has got less ballast, and he's trying to use that at the moment to try and catch Harry, but doesn't seem to be doing all too well at doing that at the moment. But he's definitely trying. Gap is still 0.6 of a second, so plenty of time in this race as well for Hanak to try and get by. Obviously, like I mentioned before, they cannot stop for fuel. They have to fill from their starting fuel tanks, and they're going to have to go to the end of the race with it. Obviously 69 minutes, that's an hour and 9 minutes, and these guys will have to try and complete it. Like I was saying earlier, it is easy for some cars, but other cars maybe not. We know that McLaren, for example, isn't going to be all that too fuel efficient, and I like to imagine the Aston will be somewhere similar to, maybe a little bit better than McLaren, but not the best. Meanwhile then, Kelly on the back of Mitchell in the 891 BMW, who's just been lapped by, I believe that is, oh no, they're lapping, sorry, Turbanov, who has now got a newly repaired Mercedes, so it's great to see him back out on track, of course. And Kelly trying to chase down the BMW as well, but they've got to be careful because Porshkov is also there. He has been doing a great job at playing recovery at the moment and doing so, but meanwhile Ninekin getting past the number 15 McLaren then, just out of the chicane, so seems to be a relatively easy pass. Still has quite a bit of damage on the car, so doing a great job with doing so. But the McLaren seems to be quite fighting back through the final corners, and in that Will Will goes into the gravel then for Ninekin. McLaren will be looking for a repass into turn 1, and McLaren pulls alongside the Porsche, and obviously carry on the inside, a little bit of contact, nothing serious, slight door banging maybe. The Porsche holds on for now, and the McLaren will have to try again. But meanwhile then, we're still watching Hanak. 0.2 of a second is now the gap, so Hanak definitely maybe taking some advice. But a big slide for Harry out of the chicane exit. It's going to allow Hanak all over the back of him. You can see Harry defending, trying to find a way past, and Hanak will have to look for a move. Doesn't think about it into these final couple of corners. Relatively sensible idea, but we'll have to try and find all the exit speed he can to try and make the most of it. It seems like a very nice exit for the both of them, really, from that camera angle. And by the way, then Hanak does seem to be at the moment doing quicker than Harry down the straight. Maybe not actually. Harry does seem to be pulling away ever so slightly. These camera angles are quite misleading, but either way, Hanak will have to continue to try again, lap after lap. Obviously, we've got 34 minutes to go, so still plenty of time for Hanak to try and make the move. Obviously, these guys are still fighting, of course, for P2, because P1 is occupied, but that's a mistake for Harry. Into the chicane, it does allow Hanak relatively through, relatively simply, and unfortunate mistake for Harry. It has cost him that P2 I was just talking about, but maybe Harry can try and fight this one back, potentially in the final 30 minutes. We'll have to see. Mary now 4.1 behind these guys as well, so some great pace from all the drivers, but someone that's been going quite quickly at the moment is the 100 McLaren. currently matching John Gray on terms of lap times, at 42.3 last time round from Francesco. So doing it quicker than Mary at the moment, and doing well at doing that. And we're looking to try and take P4 off Mary quite soon, and obviously Mary and Francesco trying to take the podium places from Hanek and Harry as well. So obviously 30 minutes, so still plenty of time, especially with the gaps being so close as they are. It is definitely quite exciting. Meanwhile then, Hayden trying to get past Darkness. The gap is a tenth of a second. That Mustang will be trying to use all its straight line speed against the Aston, and trying to make a pass into the downhill part of Imola. Can't get the overlap that he needs to get the pass, and for now just holds on. But the number 15 McLaren has a drive-through penalty, and that will have to be served the next 3 laps. It will mean, unfortunately, they will lose out to the likes of these two. So still continuing on their battle then. Obviously Darkness only hovering outside of a second to the other Mustang, so Darkness in a little bit of a Mustang sandwich, which is quite unfortunate, but a little bit bouncy over these curbs for Darkness and Hayden, so a relatively simple exit for the both of them. And they'll be looking, well, I'd imagine Hayden trying to look for a pass into turn 1, I would imagine. They seem to be doing alright at the moment. Hayden, then the gap is half a second. That number 15 McLaren does serve his drive through this lap, and obviously these two now gaining a place for set. Hayden will have to try elsewhere then if he wants to try and get the pass. So we'll have to see if that can unfold the next couple of laps, maybe, or even maybe this lap, because Hayden looking for a move on Darkness, just putting the pressure on, making himself as big as possible in the mirrors. I don't know how any bigger you want to get in that Mustang, but mistake for Darkness might actually allow for a pass for Hayden. Unfortunately he doesn't get it, but great set of motives and great car placement from Hayden. Switches to the inside then for the next corner. You can see Darkness trying to squeeze this one. Bad exit for Darkness, which is going to allow the Mustang up the inside for this corner, and he does get the pass. Very nice pass, may I add as well. But you see Darkness all over the bumper of the Mustang. Might even look for a repass. Unfortunately doesn't get it, but great set of racing from these two then. So as a pass for Hayden, up to P17 he goes, and will now look to chase after his fellow Mustang driver and of Matt Howes. Meanwhile then, watching Harry still trying to chase after Hanek to try and get that position back. At the moment is hovering around 4/10 of a second, and potentially looking to close. They obviously got to be careful as well, because obviously Francesco, who's now past Mary actually, is now closing. The gap has closed by about 6/10 of a second in the last couple of laps. So we'll have to see how they get on. Elsewhere then, looking down the grid, Darkness still trying to close back up to Hayden. Mitchell currently chasing after Edwards in the Ferrari, and he's doing a pretty good job at doing so, as obviously Edwards only hovering outside of a second to Kelly at the moment. It was a personal best for Edwards last lap, so maybe trying to pull away as quickly as possible. But either way then, continue to watch Harry. Down the straight they'll go. I'm not sure what the 10th difference will be down the straight, but he has gained a 10th already. So the straight line speed is definitely in favour of the Aston Martin, and Harry will have to try and get that Aston Martin turned in and wait for a mistake for Hanek to send up the inside, like Hanek did pretty much when Harry made the mistake in this very corner. So we'll have to see how that goes, of course, for the both of them. But we'll watch Mary then, who seems to be holding on to Francisco at the moment, and just trying to close the gap. But speaking of gap closing, that gap that Francesco is pulling to Harry and Hanek is pretty fast, because it is now dropped by another 0.6 of a second this lap. So if that is the case, in the next maybe 4 or 5 laps, if the gap stays, or the delta he's pulling is the same, we could see Francesco pretty much with Hanak and Harry very shortly. I think that'll be very exciting. Speaking of someone being there shortly, Edwards has found himself all over the bumper of Kelly. Maybe a mistake from Kelly, or just some nice lap time for Edwards, as he's actually already dropped Phil Mitchell in the 891 BMW, and now looking for a pass on Kelly. So could see a good pass, and just under half an hour left in this race. Be around this time the first tyre drop off for some of these cars, of course, will start to kick in. They'll start to feel a lack of grip, and obviously if that comes into effect in any of the racing, obviously the tyres set should last for the hour, but obviously the tyres start to go off quite quickly after a certain point. But Edwards trying to make the use of the tyres at the moment, trying to get them past Kelly, and at the moment they're pretty much identical to each other in terms of entry and exits and lines, so it's like fighting a mirror pretty much for these two, especially being in the same car as well. So hopefully Nathan can try and get past Kelly. I'll have to see how that goes for them. Personal best for Francesco then, 42.0. That was, for reference, 0.8 quicker than Hanak last lap, and it was 1.1 seconds quicker than Harry last lap. So he's definitely pushing to make the gap up, but unfortunately I think he's actually dropped the gap, because I did see it go down, but it's now at 3 seconds again. So maybe getting held up a little bit by the blue flags, we'll have to see. But either way, Harry is definitely still holding on to the rear of Hanak at the moment. Is doing a good job at doing so. You just saw Francesco in the background, you can still see him now, so that's how much that gap has come down. So Francesco will be looking to get past Turbanov, and he does so. So Francesco again into clean air, and will now look to try and get past once again. Meanwhile then, I think Edwards has just got past Kelly in the chicane, so maybe not the fantastic or best chicane for Kelly at the moment, and unfortunately that does mean Kelly is down to P12 and Edwards is up into P11 then. But like I said, it's like watching a mirror for these two. They seem to be pretty much identical at the moment, but Kelly then might even look for a potential repass into turn 1. They're very close, the gap is 1/10 of a second and now less, so side by side they go then, and Kelly actually backs out of that one, doesn't want to do it at turn 1, maybe just try to put the pressure on and try and get past elsewhere. It is potentially the case, but actually fantastic exit for Kelly. Might even look for a move into the first sector 1 chicane, again putting the pressure on, doesn't want to do it just yet, just allowing Edwards to feel a little bit of the pressure, and maybe using that to his advantage at the moment is Kelly, just trying to put the pressure on, wait for Edwards to make a mistake, and then obviously go back through. But doesn't want to wait for too long, because obviously Phil Mitchell's only 2.8 seconds behind, and any scuffling like that could cost them a lot of time, like we've seen at the top of the grid with Francesco. 1.4 is now the gap that Harry's pitting for some reason. Harry, why are you pitting?
Got a drive-through penalty for track limits.
I didn't see the drive-through. It didn't come up on race control, but track limits then for Harry, which has not helped his race at all, and unfortunately will set him down the grid. Obviously Imola, unfortunately not the best place to get a track limits, because the pit lane is so long. Taking out those cones in anger, I'm sure. Either way then, Francesco then now ahead of Harry, and as is the rest of the grid. but now chasing after Hanak. Obviously, Francesco much quicker than Hanak at the moment. So we could see still a battle for P2 at the moment. And someone that's trying to make a battle at the moment is Kelly. He's still trying to chase after Edwards at the moment. Harry is now out of the pit lane behind Porshikov, who also got a drive-through penalty a little bit earlier. So obviously not ideal at all, but Porshikov and Harry then 9th and 10th, the drive-through buddies you could say, but Porshikov 9.4 seconds to the next car, and meanwhile Harry obviously only 6 seconds to Porshikov, so maybe some battles to come in the next 20 minutes. But hopefully, I'm definitely hoping Francesco does catch Hanak. He does seem to be much quicker at the moment, and it's going to be a McLaren versus McLaren battle for P2. That's one I haven't spoken about all too much at all. Also, it is John Gray, who's pretty much dominated qualifying. After put in his first lap, it was good enough for pole anyway, and then on his final lap, he beats his time by 1/10 and a half. And now, only maybe a little scuffle with Donate at the start. Has felt no threat at all from anyone in this grid. Unfortunately, with Donate getting a disconnect, of course, it could have been different. But John Gray has definitely made the most out of the situation, and has currently led every single lap of this race, and now dominating. He's put personal best in last lap. It was a 41. Oh, it wasn't a personal best. Sorry, it was a personal best for the rest of the grid. It's the first lap of the session. On that lap, it was a 41.9. His best obviously being a 41.5. So going very quickly is John Gray. Especially after so long in this race. Like I said, tyre drop off, he'd be feeling maybe not, so the tyres killing themselves straight away, but it would be relatively soon. But John Gray doing a fantastic job up into P1 at the moment. 20 seconds is the gap behind, so doing a great job. Kelly then still trying to find a way past in Edwards. Gap is 0.8 of a second, but maybe Edwards just slowly quicker than Kelly at the moment, but Kelly's still within range of obviously an attack. Meanwhile then, at the top, Francesco 1.6 seconds to Hanak, and something I must also point out, Mary's only 3.4 seconds behind. Behind them is Andrea only at 1.5 and Samuel only at 2 seconds, so even after obviously maybe 50 minutes of racing, we've had absolutely excellent loads of battles, and the gaps are still very close at the top, and to be fair all the way down the grid as well, they're quite close, but this is the one we want to focus on as much as possible. Is Francesco closing the gap to Hanak. It was a 42.9 for Hanak, so definitely picking up the pace, and it was a 42.8 for Francesco, so only a 10th, but obviously a 10th is quite a lot, especially as the laps start to close. Let's see obviously how they get on, but Porshikov doing a 42.3 as well, so Porshikov still trying to gain as much time as he can to the cars ahead. He's brought the gap from around 9 seconds to 5.7 at the moment. Obviously have to catch him with him a little bit later, see if that gap closes a little bit more. If you see a little bit twitchy is the McLaren of the number 100, but all the while getting some time. He's closed the gap to almost a second to Hanak then, so the gap is closing down, and we should have a battle in the final 20 minutes to see who will get P2 and who will get P3. If we don't count out the likes of Mary, I think 20 minutes is still a relatively long time, and could provide some great racing for the likes of Mary and Andrea, who are not that far behind at all. But it is Francesco then breaking the 1 second. The gap is now 0.7 of a second, and it was much quicker for Francesco last time round. 42.2 for the number 100 McLaren is a 42.9 to the number 77 McLaren. So again, Francesco using as much of the track as he can to try and get past Hanak at the moment, trying to be faster. At the moment he's doing just that. Another personal best for Edwards then, so he seems doing alright at the moment. He has pulled away from Kelly. Mistake from Hanak then, going a little bit wide, but he's not. If he didn't lift or brake there, it would have been a warning, so he's got to be a little bit more careful. Yeah, so Edwards has pulled away from Kelly then. The gap is now 1.6 seconds, so Edwards doing just a good job there. This is now our closest battle on track, so we'll stay on board with these guys. As you can see, Hanak a little bit inside of the curbs, a little bit of a twitch from Francesco on the exit. So these guys are definitely pushing. They're trying to find as much time as they possibly can through the corners. They have got a little bit of traffic up ahead. They have got the likes of Mark. They have got the likes of, I believe, that is the number 15 McLaren as well, just ahead of them. You see Hanak trying to use it as slipstream, but at the moment it could be a pass for Francesco into turn 1. It's all about who is running lower wing, and I think at the moment it is Francesco with the slipstream. To the outside he goes. Hanak a little bit later on the brakes and does hold on to P2 just for now. Better exit for Francesco then. Out of turn 2 they go. Still got traffic ahead of them. Hanak very late to defend to the middle, back to the racing line, within the rules. Big slide for Hanak then. He's got to get past this traffic as soon as possible, otherwise he's going to lose even more time and potentially cost him out on a position. But unfortunately, luckily, the blue flag does get out of the way and does let this battle continue. And at the moment then, Francesco looking to put all the pressure on Hanak at the moment. And you can see how hesitant Francesco was to turn into the corner. He's waiting for Hanak to move in first, just trying to get the better line, of course. So either way then, the battle continues. Obviously they've got roughly 15 minutes. Obviously you see that's the Rita of Ben Gilroy and Mark Mass. Obviously Ben Gilroy deciding to rent out the Rita just for this race. You can see them battling just up ahead. By the way, they've got to try their best to stay out of this battle for the podium. It's basically who's going to be on the higher step of the podium at the moment. Big slide for Francesco out of the final corner, but it shouldn't affect things too much. The gap is 0.5 of a second down the straight. Hanak will get a little bit of slipstream from Mark as well, so once again a little bit saved by another car. Once they clear Ben and Mark, they will be in clean air, so no one to disrupt them from their race. Mark does get out of the way then, and the next up is of course the unusual. Is the Rex, is the worst car in the game, of course. Obviously maybe an opinion, but to a lot of people it's almost a fact. But Ben does get out of the way very nicely for Hanak, and is side by side with Francesco, but does let him go. And these two will have to continue on their battle now into clean air. So we'll have to see obviously how that goes for them. Obviously Ben Gilroy driving as fast as he possibly can, and right at the moment he's currently in P23. We have obviously 30 cars on the grid, and obviously Gilroy not last, which is
Contact on John Gray.
Contact from John Gray. It is contact from John Gray. We'll have to re-watch that replay. So I think maybe we have to go back a little bit further. Looked like contact. Like Harry said, it looks like someone spun him into the grass, and he had another almost spin after that as well. Unfortunate, but John Gray then with heavy damage on that that Ferrari. The gap went down from 20 seconds to 7 seconds, so he lost 13 seconds in that alone. And he has got quite a bit of damage on that car. I can see the bonnet flapping up and down. He's very lucky that it's not a meatball flag, but I imagine he's finding that quite hard to drive at the moment. Unfortunately for him, it is not the usual calm like it just was, but meanwhile, they'll have to see if these two can try and make the most of that damage and potentially have a three-way car fight in the final 13 minutes for P1. But still Francesco then chasing after Hanak into the first sector they go. The gap is now 6 seconds, and they've already gained a second on John Gray. At the moment the gap is just continuing to drop. You can see John Gray's car in the distance, so maybe John, that Ferrari has got some serious damage and it cannot perform like it was earlier on. But Francesco at the moment probably just focusing on trying to get past the bigger McLaren at the moment. And Francesco then continuing on, a little bit of a mistake, has to cut the track a little bit, and won't get a warning for that, but a mistake does set him back by about a second. And the gap has come down to 5 seconds between Hanak and John Gray. Big hit on the left side of the McLaren for Francesco, taking a little bit too much curb, and that has cost him another half a second to Hanak, and Hanak is probably really quite relieved at the moment that he has got a little bit of breathing room, and luckily for him a blue flag car between them just for now. So maybe Francesco getting a little bit desperate and maybe try to push a little bit too hard then. I'll have to keep you updated on the lap times for the cars behind it. Is a 44.7 for John Gray. Last time round it was a 43.1 for Hanak. So by the time the end of this race we could see the leader of the race change. And unfortunately for John Gray it might not go his way. He was doing an excellent job, but unfortunately that gap just keeps dropping. At the moment with Francesco now a little bit behind Hanak. Hanak has a little bit more, can put a little bit more focus and concentration into catching ahead rather than defending from behind. And that really does show, because the gap is now 4.5 seconds. It is pretty much going to be half a second each and every sector. That is John Gray. That damage on that Ferrari, you can look at it, it's awful. It is no longer a Ferrari. It is definitely struggling. John Gray is going to try his absolute best to keep it on the track and defend as much as he can at the moment. But he's got 10 minutes to survive, and the gap being 4 seconds at the moment, it is not looking all too promising, but I could be wrong. Obviously if Francesco does catch back up to Hanak, they might obviously John Gray might have a chance, but as it stands it's not looking all too good. But meanwhile then Andrea chasing Samuel doing a fantastic job at the moment in P4, obviously getting a position to Harry's unlucky drive through, but it could be a P4 for Andrea, as he seems to be closing that gap pretty well. We'll continue on and see these live lap time updates. It was a 44.4 again for John Gray. It was a 42.6 for Hanak. So if that tells you the gap, I'm pretty sure nothing else will. And obviously Hanak now has Francesco back into his mirrors. The gap is now 0.7 off a second, and I imagine these two will just try and focus on catching John Gray first, and then continue their battles. Well, that's what the sensible thing I would do. Andrea then potentially looking for a pass on Samuel into sector 1. I don't think he'll get it just yet. Samuel holding on then for P4. He's got 9 minutes to try and hold on to that P4, as has John Gray's got 9 minutes to hold on to this P1. The gap is now 2.5 seconds. He's really suffering with that damage on that car, and it's really unfortunate to see after having such a dominant race from quali to pretty much the entirety of the race, obviously until the final quarter. There's John Gray then, and there's Hanak, and there's Francesco in the distance. So it's not looking all too well for John Gray. You'll see them gaining in the mirrors, and that's not really the sight you want to see all too much. But either way, John Gray's doing a fantastic job at the moment to keep it on track. At the moment, that Ferrari doesn't look very healthy at all, and obviously with heavy damage on a car like the Ferrari. Obviously the Ferrari is pretty much made out of paper mache, so damage like that is pretty costly. I would imagine he pretty much has over roughly about 40-50 seconds of damage on that Ferrari at the moment. does look quite bad. But the gap in 2 seconds then, you can see Hanak closing and closing. 42.6 last time for Hanak is a 44.2. John Gray dipping wheels into the gravel. Francesco doing a 42.5. So this battle could continue, and if John Gray can time it, he can hopefully get Francesco to overtake Hanak. But at the moment it's not looking all too good, because Hanak's now within a second already to John Gray just in that sector 1 alone. So he's lost 2 seconds in one sector, and that is absolutely not ideal. We'll go on board with Hanak then. See where this Ferrari is struggling. I imagine pretty much all over the circuit. Is where Hanak can find a sensible place to pass, and how much John Gray defends it, but he makes a mistake. Into chicane, catches the curb on the right, and John Gray, I think, is unfortunately going to have to cede the position into the chicane. I think Hanak is going to go for it. He does go for it. Side by side into the chicane they go. Contact has been made. John Gray has to cut over the curb, but Hanak is promoted to P1 then. John Gray is P2, but he's going to lose that position to Francesco coming down into the final corners of this racetrack. So John Gray then in 1 lap has lost 2 positions from the race lead. But I say that again, but he makes a mistake, locks up, hits the McLaren, and John Gray is still holding on to P2 at the moment. He's going to have to defend for his life if he wants to try and keep it. Unfortunately, I think this damage is going to be too much down the straight, and the McLaren will just fly by him on the straight at the moment. Yeah, it's still side by side then, and obviously the McLaren will now be through with that damage that John Gray is suffering. So interesting. Maybe Hanak's pass wasn't fair, some would say, and maybe some would say John Gray's defence against Francesco also wasn't fair. Also, John Gray just trying to hold on to absolutely everything at the moment. Look at the damage on that. I mean, his front splitter's bent, bonnet's up. It was not looking healthy at all. I think that's Francesco. No, sorry, it's Turbanov just getting out of the way. It did sound like Francesco was off into the gravel. And obviously race leader then, now Hanak, and now has a 2-second gap to Francesco. Then so we'll have to see how much of this gap can be cut down by Francesco. We know Francesco was faster a little bit earlier on, but maybe Hanak now has some motivation as he is now the race leader. So obviously race leader change with only 6 minutes left on this race. A little bit of a late one, but still some great action up and down the grid. But the gap is already 1.7, so it is coming down, and we could see a potential another race leader change before the end of this race. And something we could also see potentially is a podium change, because Samuel is catching John Gray at the moment. Obviously Samuel in P4 at the moment has held off Andrea pretty well, and at the moment is going quicker than John Gray is. We'll have to see what John Gray's lap time is over the line, and see what Cairo is doing as well. But he has cut down the gap quite a bit. It was a 45.6 last time for John Gray. It was a 43.0 for Cairo. So he has got the time to catch John Gray. It'll be pretty much a last lap overtake, but he has the pace to do it if he continues this pace. Andrea was struggling to get past a Rita of Ben Garo. I think that's Garo now giving way. But Andrea also in this battle as well. We'll have to see how it goes, but Samuel's already cut down the gap in that chicane by about a second. Obviously John Gray really struggling in that chicane alone. So we'll have to see obviously how this gap cuts down, but Samuel could be on for a podium then. In the final 4.5 minutes of racing we have left. Meanwhile, Hanak has extended the gap to Francesco. Maybe Francesco getting a little bit stuck in the traffic. Either way, I think Hanak might have this if he can hold on to it. So we only have a few more laps of racing left. But meanwhile then, Porshikov down in P15. I don't know what happened to him.
He had a drive-through.
He got another drive-through penalty. Really unfortunate for Porshikov, but he is making moves. Up the inside he goes on Hanzo Voss, and does make that pass into the Sector 1 chicane. It's a very clean move, and now move himself back up into P14. unfortunate, obviously, to get another one, but it is the way of racing sometimes. But still continue to make moves up and down the grid. Obviously, Harry also getting a driver penalty as well, but back up into P9. And the battle continues, and see if Samuel can catch John Gray. And that is the big thing. It is now 3 seconds the gap, and it was a 44.4 for John Gray last time around. It was a 42.9 for Samuel. So he's definitely pushing to try and catch this gap. Of course, catching is one thing, passing is another. We saw how Hanak and Francesco got past John Gray, and it was only because Hanak made John Gray make a mistake. So I'll have to see what Samuel does when he catches John Gray. I'm sure John Gray will not be happy to lose a podium place, or let alone the lead, but I'm sure he will try and hold on to this podium, especially in the last dying moments of this race. After all of this, still after an hour and 9 minutes of racing, the gaps are so close between everyone. It's been a fantastic race to watch up and down the grid, no matter how unfortunate it may be for some of the drivers. But either way, then the gap now 2.4 seconds, and it seems to be ever closing. Each and every lap, you can see the damage. You can see John Gray now, and it's really unfortunate for John Gray, of course, leading the race by 20 seconds. And maybe an instant, fortunately, at this very chicane, and lost him 13 seconds and gave him a load of damage. And unfortunately, losing out P1 and P2, and now potentially in the last couple of laps, could be losing out on P3 as well. So we'll have 2 more laps of racing then, as Hanak now crosses the line. So we'll have this one and another, and that's all Samuel has to try and catch John Gray. It's a 43.9 for John Gray, so John Gray is improving the lap time, but Samuel still a second quicker each lap. So at the moment, he will have enough to catch John Gray, but he might not have enough to pass him, so he's got to try push a little bit more if he wants to get past John Gray, otherwise we could have a very close finish. Samuel has pulled away a little bit from Andrea, but Andrea is still holding around just outside the 1 second at the moment. But meanwhile, then Porshakov is still making moves. He's looking for P13 at the moment on Ninekin in the Porsche. So although they're getting 2 drive-throughs, he's still continuing to push on, try and gain as many positions as he can. It's an unfortunate start to the race for Porshakov, but he's just racing sometimes, and he's definitely showing us, obviously, don't give up, because you can still have some great fun. I'm sure he will still say the same. He's probably had some quite fun battling with some of these other drivers. He hasn't battled all too much before, and that'll be something for him. And I imagine this will be a pass for Porshakov then into turn 1. Up the inside he goes, later on the brakes, into turn 1, and that is now P13 for Porshakov. And I don't think Ninekin will fight that too much with the damage he has. But the big thing to look out for then, the gap for Samuel is 1.3 seconds, and he'll have this final couple corners and another lap to try and catch and overtake John Gray. And John Gray, just for the fun of it, has unfortunately caught Francesco. I don't know what's happened there. I think Francesco is slowing down. I think Francesco's run out of fuel, and that's what I was talking about with the McLaren. He has lost fuel. So there's Samuel there. Francesco has run out of fuel, and he's losing positions left and right. John Gray and Samuel went through then. So John Gray back up into P2. Still has got blue flag traffic, because Samuel's 0.6 of a second between himself and John Gray at the moment. So Samuel out of nowhere could be looking at a P2. Unfortunate for Francesco to be losing this amount of fuel on the last lap, but that's what I was saying about the McLaren being so deadly on the fuel. You've got to be really careful at the moment. The gap then 0.4 of a second, and all Samuel has to do is try and overtake John Gray on this last lap for P2 at the moment. But either way, he's looking for a podium just at the moment. But that is quite scarily how quickly Francesco lost all that fuel. But we'll have to continue on then. He's trying to defend from Andrea and Ashley at the moment. I'm trying to look for Samuel. What's Samuel going to do? Where is he going to look for this move then? Late on the brakes into the chicane, doesn't think about it just yet. John Gray's going to get blocked by a blue flag driver at the moment. but John Gray might try and use them from the slipstream down the straight, because that's pretty much where this battle might be heading. We could be having a photo finish for P2, but what's Samuel going to do? He's going to hold and defend. You can see John Gray trying to get past, a little bit of a mistake for John Gray, a little bit too deep. Either way, Samuel then looking for a straight, much better exit for Samuel, and could be looking at pretty much a drag race to the line. The damage that John Gray's got is not going to be enough, but it could be to the line. John Gray, I think he's just about to hold this. He doesn't. Samuel has got P2, only just. McLaren was much quicker in a straight line. Obviously, not much John Gray could do with the damage he had. Either way, then, fantastic result for Samuel, and John Gray trying to push him to the very edge of the track, just to try and hold off that position. Unfortunately, can't hold it, but we're still watching then. Mitchell and Kelly and Francesco, who's losing, he's limping fuel all the way. So what could have been a great result turned out not to be a fantastic one. That's Mark giving him a little push all the way to the line. But meanwhile, Mitchell then, on the back of Kelly, could be still looking at a photo finish again. I don't know if it's going to be as close as it was just a minute ago. It wasn't. I think Kelly has got that secured, unfortunately, but you can see Francesco still losing positions, but he's going to limp it across the line. Mark gave him a push, and now Will's giving him a little push as well to the line to help him finish, of course. I mean, what a race that was. Photo finish to the line for P2. Francesco running out of fuel and getting a push all the way back to the line, and he just makes it to the line there, does Francesco. So after all that nightmare, it does finish P15. Unfortunate, but obviously that was the point of the race. It was try and save fuel if you can. But what a race that was then. It was Lucas Hanak taking the win after a very great race. Samuel P2, John Gray P3 after a very unfortunate incident, and Andrea and then Luca rounding out the top 5, of course. Other than that, then obviously make sure you join the Discord and get yourself signed up to Crimad if you haven't already. It is that QR code in the bottom left that'll take you to the website where you